Dobry wieczór. Witamy wszystkich bardzo serdecznie w kolejnym odcinku programu La Banda na pobandzie.com.pl. Cieszymy się bardzo, że są Państwo z nami i jak widać zrobiło się u nas nieco rodzinnie, ponieważ tło jest to samo, tylko gość się zmienił, więc dziś gościem jest nie Mikkel Andersen, ale jego ojciec Brian Andersen. Hello Brian, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
I've heard that you've got a little bit of cold.
Yeah, well, obviously this time of year, when the temperature change, we always get a bit of a cold. I think that's normal, and also the amount of work that we're doing at the moment, the hours we work. I think maybe the immune system is not 100%, but but we try and do our best. So yeah, I could be coughing or something in the interview, but I hope not. Yeah.
Never mind. Even if you do, then we're gonna cut it out. But is Corona an issue in Denmark at the moment, or not at all?
Well, I don't think people do talk too much about Corona at the moment. If it's COVID or it's a cold or a virus or something, we don't really know what's what at the moment. So people who has maybe Corona, people most of the time think it's just a virus, and you have to stay at home and like you normally do, and look after other people as well. Don't try and go to work where you can obviously pass it on to somebody else. So I think Corona, the time we had Corona has obviously made people think a little bit twice before they go to work. Yeah.
Of course. And I think this is really reasonable that people think about the others. But we are not here today to talk about Corona or about your state of health, even if it's still interesting. But we are here to talk a little bit about your career as a speedwayer, because, probably many people still remember you from the track. Let's maybe remind that you've started like in the back of 80s. And why did you start riding speedway? Who was your role model?
Well, it was quite funny the way we started. My father has never ridden speedway before, but when he was a kid, he came out of a family where obviously it's a farmer's family and didn't really have much money, and but they're very interested in motorsports and went out to watch a lot of the speedway meetings local. Which was a little bit different at the times. There was like also sometimes using standard motorcycle bikes, and then there was like the special class, which was like speedway, what we know today, which Ollie Olsen and these people were riding in. And this way, he obviously got interested in speedway, and so when my older brother Jan and I was kids. We went to watch the speedway with my mom and dad, and I think one day we actually went to a speedway meeting, and there was handing out flyers, leaflets, where there was like encouraging young kids to come and try speedway in the local track, and at the time you had to be 12 years old to start racing, and I was too young, and so my brother went, which is 1.5 years older than me. He went to test it out, and he thought it was really, really good. So and then the following year in '83 I turned 12 years old, and then I bought a second-hand bike, and we started racing then. At that time it was 50cc engines, and it was still very powerful, but they had about 12 and a half horsepower at the time, so they were good. It was good bike to start learning on. So.
Yeah, you know perfectly the technical specifications of all of these bikes. We're gonna talk also about this later. But then, at the beginning of your career, one of the first successes that might have been was the junior championship in Lviv, when you had 8 points after 3 rides. And then you were last for 2 last heats, and you lost your big chance for the medal. Do you remember that meeting? What happened there? Something surprised you with the track?
Yeah, well, obviously it did. I had a really good meeting up till it started to rain. And after it started to rain, I couldn't really find a good setup for the track. And then I actually think some of the more experienced riders obviously kicked in and did better than I did. It was a little bit of a surprise to get into the meeting. I wasn't really supposed to be in the meeting until Jakob Olsen caught an illness and couldn't ride in the meeting, and then I got the call up for that meeting. So riding against Tony Rickardsson, Chris Louis, and these guys, which was like more experienced than I was, I think they were more when the track got more difficult because of the weather situation. Then I think they were quicker to adapt to the conditions than I was. So yeah, it was in the hindsight, maybe you could have done this and that or different things, but as it happens, I still felt I had a good meeting. It was my first time in a World Championship round, so and also being a long way from home, which it was. So that was a very good experience and something I obviously carried on for the following season. Yeah. So.
How did you remember this trip? Because it was probably the first time for you to be so far east. And how do you remember the people, or how you remember this time there?
Oh, I remember it very clearly because it was obviously for us. It was a long way from home, and going to Lviv was obviously an eye opener also, because there's also a big difference between living in Denmark and living in that place where I have to say we probably, looking at the way they were, I don't think they had much money and much money to spare, so the level of living, I think we were quite spoiled in Denmark compared to them. I remember the hotel very well because we were on the 8th floor in this building, and we had mice in the room, and we also had cockroaches in the room, which I've never seen in my life. So that was a big eye opener for me, and see how what's a big culture different it also was, So it was a big, at the age I was, it was a big meeting and also like culture shock really.
Yeah, it must have been like this, no? Because like you've said, you were from another world. It wasn't 10,000 kilometers, it was 2,000 kilometers. I mean, yeah. Maybe not even, but still probably back in the days in the communist Soviet Union, I think, because 1990s, it must have been the case in Lviv. Yeah. It was something completely different for you.
Yeah, well, and then the following year when we were in... I also had that was also a big experience that when we did the semi-finals for the under 21 World Final in '91, we had the semi-finals on the other side of the Black Sea in Cherkassk, not far from the Caucasus Mountains, and that was a long way to go, and I remember that very well because we had to drive to Brest, and we were flying from Brest and to Cherkassk, and we even had to have a stopover to fuel up the plane on the way there, and then obviously under 21 we were only allowed by the FIM to take one bike and a bag of tools and one spare wheel. And obviously, when you're very serious about your sport, I just said I can't go to a world championship semi-final with only one bike. That's impossible. And I was very lucky that my mom and dad's neighbor, he was a truck driver, and him and his wife came up to us and said, "Well, if you pack your van, then we'll take it to Cherkassk." And
how long did it take for him? A week?
They started off on the Monday, and they arrived on the Friday, and they were driving non-stop because also they had an extra driver, so there was three people driving. And at the time I had a Toyota van, and the service interval on that van was 10,000 kilometers, and it was serviced when they took off, and when it came back, it needed service. So it's 10,000 kilometers driving by road, and that was absolutely crazy. And when I was the only one in the pits who had 3 bikes in the pits, and well, I had one of my teammates, my Danish teammates, Hans Clausen. His bike broke down in practice, so he had one of my bikes for the meeting, which you do in those situations.
So you did something good also for your colleague. Yeah, but it's really an interesting story, because what we are taught in Poland is that Danish people, they are not really welcoming. That, for example, if you go to a neighbor and you haven't said that you are coming on Thursday, then nobody will open the door for you. This is what we know about Denmark, that you need to make appointments with your neighbors. And basically what you are now saying about your neighbor driving your bike to Czechiesk, it's completely not true what we think about you Danes.
No, I think you've got the wrong story there. Obviously, not everyone is the same. But I'm the way I've always done it personally is, and also the way we treat the speedway is that yes, we can be opponents and in the speedway meeting, but we don't have to fight it out in the pits. We have to fight for the points and everything on track. But why do it in the pits? There's absolutely no reason why you can't have friends and get on with each other in the pits or outside the pits. It's it can be you one day who needs a helping hand or spare bike or a tire or something, and then it would be very nice if you treat the people next to you the way you want them to treat you. Then I think you get a long way in this world. Yeah,
that's completely true. And I think also this good karma came back to you. It paid off a little bit because you won the final in Coventry in 1991.
Yeah. That was also a very, very special moment. I think when we went to Coventry, I didn't see myself as a favorite. I think Joe Screen, Shane Parker, who was riding in England at the time, I think they were probably the more favorites. Chris Lewis, well, he was not in the meeting. No, there was Freddie Schott also riding in England. I think the main. So the riders that was already riding in England and in the British League, they were probably the favourites to take the title that day. But I both myself and Morten Andersen probably had the best meetings of our lives that night. It was a very obviously strange situation because the meeting was cancelled because of the rain, some weather situation, and it got delayed the next day. And yeah, well, I'm not out of a wealthy family, so I was working as an apprentice engineering in the company and did not really have that much money. So I have a good story here where I was at the hotel and Eric Gundersen was our team manager. Eric knows the people who owns the hotel very well, and we sat there, and like I said to Eric, I can't really afford to pay for another night because we it was a lot of money for me at that time, or both for the travel to go there. And the funny thing is the hotel owner and his wife they sat next to us, and she came to me and said, "Brian, if you promise to give me a wave when you win the title, you have the room for free." And
you did after?
I must admit, when I did win the meeting, the first thing I did was getting eye contact with her and gave her a wave, and I'll never forget that. That is so clear in my mind from that situation.
Yeah, so. Cool. Just to be able to spend the night for free for just one wave. Yeah, but it wasn't.
Yeah, and the win, of course.
And the win, of course. It wasn't just a wave; it was a wave from a world champion.
Yeah, exactly. So that was very important for her. So that was the deal.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but I think you made a really good impression, not only at the hotel, but also in Coventry in general, because you stayed racing for bees for another 8 years.
Yes, yes, I did. Yeah, and I have very, very great memories from Coventry, both the track and also the people around, the management, the team managers, my teammates. We had a really, really good time in England and Coventry. So, but yeah, obviously because it's England, you had to you had to sort of move to the country and live there at the time, because we were doing 50, 60 meetings per season, and that was also the place that you had to go to travel to if you wanted to make a living out of your speedway. Mainly also because of the many meetings that you had. So. Yeah, it was a great time. I wouldn't miss it for anything. It was really good. Later we built on the Polish league and the Swedish league and the GPs. So yeah, it's been a great time in England. And yes, I still have many friends in England and being in contact with them over the years as well.
Yeah, that's great that your career started to flourish 1991. And you mentioned the Polish league just a couple of seconds ago. I think you've started in Poznan in a very fast season.
Yes, 1990, 91. I did a race for Poznan. 89 was my first year on the 500cc, and already in 1990 I had my sort of first year in where I was riding in foreign leagues as well, which was Poznan, and yes, 89 was my first year, and I remember we did a training tour with Fredericia and joint thing with Esbjerg, and we went to Poznan for a training tour there, and had really great memories from then. That was obviously when before the Berlin Wall was down, and that was also a big experience to get all the carnets and visas and all that to go to Poland. That was also a great memory. And then 1990 was my first year racing for Poznan, and I remember very well. And it was Sunday meetings and traveling down on a Saturday together with my mechanic, and then Monday morning, 7 o'clock, I had to be back at work because the guy I was working for, he said, "Oh, you can't have time off, so you must be Monday morning, 7 o'clock. You got to be there." So so sometimes we didn't have much sleep and at all, and then but it was tough times. But I wanted to race speedway and I wanted to be professional, so. I had no choice. It was the way it was. Yeah,
it's a big difference, I think, between back in the days and now. Now probably everything is prepared for everyone that would like to ride speedway. And back in the days, not only in Poland, what we tend to think, but also in another countries, sometimes it was a hard piece of bread.
Oh yeah, well there's a big difference between then and now. I know we always. I'm not going to say it was better in the old days, because you hear that all the time. But it was definitely different, and you can always discuss which one is the best. But I think looking back at my career and the way I was brought up. We had to obviously we didn't have much money, and we had to work really hard to both to try and earn money to generate money we can spend on speedway, and when we were racing we did not get much money per point and all this stuff, well, nowadays you see the youngsters, like they're like 17, 18 years old, has 3 full-time mechanics, they got vans, they got sponsors, they got everything, you know. It wasn't until 97, 98 when I had my first full-time mechanic, you know. So I've been racing professionally since 92, and there wasn't. I had great help from two mechanics who was helping me after their work, and they took time off work sometimes to help me when I was going abroad or something, and I really appreciate their big help, because without them I wouldn't be where I sort of ended up, because I did not have enough money to have that sort of level. Even if say my second year in the Grand Prix, I did not even have as much sponsorship money as Mikkel has nowadays. You know, but we had to fight for it. We had to work hard, and when you have to work hard, you also learn how to work with the bikes, the setups, and where I see a lot of riders today. They just shake their head. They don't know what's going on, and they just point at the mechanic, fix the bike, you know. and we had to learn it very hard, and this is also what I'm been passing on to my son Mikkel, because of course I have a lot of experience and I can pass it on to him, but I want him, and this year he has been doing his bikes himself. He does his clutch, he does his carbs, he does everything, because I want him. Like I did, I have to learn it the hard way. I can obviously tell him what not to do and make mistakes, but he has to have the feel in his hand and know, if I do this, this happens. If I do that, this happens. You know, so it's very important that the youngsters are involved in the bikes and the clutches, the everything. So then when they sit on the bike, they have a feel for what's going on. It's very easy just to hand out some money on to a full-time mechanic or a manager or whatever, and then your career will go up really quick, but it will also stall 100%, because money is not everything. You can't pay success in no way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great story that you are saying, because I think it should be recorded. It will be recorded and repeated many times for the youngsters, because I don't think many of the youngsters have got this kind of approach. So we can only learn from you, and have a look on Mikkel also, how he's dealing with his bikes, because it can only pay off in the future. But I also wanted, probably you know, that if we are talking already about Poland, then there is one story that has been repeated many times with you, where you mistakenly went to not this Krosno. So you were supposed to go to Krosno for a meeting, but you went to Krosno Odrzańskie, which is like 700 kilometers closer to you. So you were optimistic in this case. And well, tell me, how was it? Like if you were there, if you arrived to Krosno Odrzańskie, what did you do? Did you ask people where is the speedway track?
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, obviously this was way before mobile phones, and also it was also so a long time before GPS and all this stuff. So we had a map, we had a road map. So when the club told me that I was going to be in Krosno, then I looked on the map and I found Krosno, and I just didn't know there was two Krosnos in Poland. So my mechanic and we went down to Krosno, and we ended up on this square and in the town, and we were looking for a speedway track. And I said, well, all speedway tracks in Poland, they're in the middle of the town, so we must be able to find it somehow. And we were trying to ask people, but nobody was like, they were just shaking their head. Obviously, maybe because they couldn't speak English or even German. We tried German as well, but and then we were looking around and nobody was. They were just shaking their head. And in the end, I found a phone box, and we put some money in, and then then we phoned some people from the club, and they said, well, they were in Krosno and they couldn't understand why we were not there yet. So we said, well, we've been driving around and for hours now, and we can't find a track. And then all of a sudden we found out that it was the wrong Krosno. so and when we looked on the map and looked where the real Krosno was, then we thought, well, we better just go home again, because we're never gonna make the meeting in time. No chance. So but that's what happens nowadays. Well, I've heard and seen people who has missed the speedway meeting even though they have the GPS, where they've gone to the wrong town. So yes, it can happen. But I think the excuse is that we only had a roadmap.
Of course, that's the excuse that you've got, and yeah, it's probably the first story. It is like this, but I remember it for example from Polish ski jumpers who went to Germany not to the right Willingen, because in general ski jumping is in the south, because the mountains are in the south, and in this kind of event, Willingen that you are doing the ski jumping is in the middle of Germany, so that's why they went to the wrong one. So yeah,
well, that makes sense.
Similarly to you, right? But we talked a little bit about Poznań, but you are probably mostly known from Poland for racing for Stal Rzeszów. And do you remember some colleagues back from the days from Stal Rzeszów in this 1995, 1993? I think you were racing there.
Yes, of course. There's quite a few. Obviously, some I know better than others. Janusz Slonska was there when I was there, and also Maciej Kuciapa was there. They were obviously juniors at the time, and then there was also Rafał Trojanowski was also there, and well, I can't. There's obviously many more. Rafał Wilks was also there.
Yes, he's now Olympic champion, Paralympic champion. You probably know.
I've seen that.
Yeah.
I've seen his name mentioned in that, yes, we had obviously then there was only one foreigner allowed in the team at the time, and so you obviously with your teammates was always Polish, and so yeah, it was a good time, a really good time in Czechia, and we had three good years there.
Yeah, and it was also back in the days when you were really strong also in Grand Prix, because you made it to Grand Prix for 1997. And you know what's coming already. No? I'm going to ask you about, this story in Bradford that you won the 4th round, and it was only 6 rounds. And after the 4th round, after winning in Bradford, you were 2nd. And then you had this bad injury. You can also say a couple of words about this, but I'm just gonna put it into the framework. Tuesday you got injured. Thursday you had a surgery, and Saturday you needed to be on the bike and ride in Wrocław. How did you feel?
Well, in hindsight, I would say I was very, very stupid. But at the time, after Bradford, I was 2nd in the world, only 7 points behind Greg Hancock, my teammate from Coventry. And yes, then I signed a contract for Mariestad in Sweden, and I was going to race there on a Tuesday, the first meeting, and we had horrendous storm and really bad weather, but we more or less got forced to start racing the meeting, and even though the rain was hammering down, and then yes, I was from the outside gate, and then we got to sort of 30 yard mark, and then I collided with another rider, and I high-sided over the handlebar, and landed on the track, and I remember just lying there in the rain, and the paramedics came over, and he said, "Oh, you must stay down. I must stay down." And I could hear in the loudspeaker that I was in the rerun. So I said to this guy, I said, "Well, move away. I gotta go to the rerun." And he said, "Oh, no, you must stay down. You must stay down." And then he was saying in Swedish that I've broken the collarbone in Swedish, and I couldn't understand what he was saying. And he said, "You must stay down." And he said, "You must have some oxygen." I said, "No, I'm in the rerun, so go away." So I was gonna try and go up, but he said, "You must stay down." And then the funny thing was, then when the adrenaline and the pulse went down, then all of a sudden, I got a lot of pain, and then I was 100% sure what was happening. And then I said to the guy, come with the oxygen, because then all of a sudden, like, I had a lot of pain, and we obviously ended going with the ambulance to the hospital, and then we sat in the hospital waiting to get seen by a doctor. But after 3 hours, nothing happened, and we asked the staff what was going on, and because there's been a really bad weather, there's been some bad car accidents, and so there's coming in a lot of people into the emergency areas, and then so a collarbone was all of a sudden not so important. So I was just put on to one side, and then after 4 hours, I asked them, "Are you going to do anything to the collarbone or not?" And they said, "No, we're not going to do anything." I said, "Well, okay." So I discharged myself. I signed the papers, and then I went to Denmark. And on the way home, I phoned Tommy Knudsen, who has a lot of experience with the collarbone, and I called him up, and I know he had a surgeon in Aarhus, and which had done his collarbone in the past, and he set me up. I had a phone conversation with him on the Wednesday when we got back to Denmark, and well, I signed some papers and agreed on the price for the surgery, and then Thursday morning I had the surgery done, and 12 o'clock midday I went home to my parents' house, and Friday morning I went on the airplane, and also just with an ice box on the collarbone, which was because you're not allowed to take any painkillers, obviously. Stronger than a normal headache tablet, so that's what I had, and I have to say it was very painful, very painful. Mm-hmm. And then coming to Wrocław, where there was really bad weather, did not help the situation very much either, because the track was not very good. They did not have the best equipment to make the track rideable. But obviously, it was in the early days, also with the Grand Prix, where the show must be on, and the TV is going, and not really thinking about the safety of the riders. So the track conditions were not the best for my operating collarbone. So we did. I ended up winning the D final, which was also obviously a consolation, but I was very much in pain. When we got to the hotel, it was I had a lot of pain, and I remember also that was also the night where Princess Diane died. So we have some memories for that trip.
No, obviously, and of course it's an important event for the whole world that Princess Diana died. But I think it must, or maybe not must, but it could have been a moment also when something happened with your career also, because you were never that close to the world champion title ever again. And was it more connected with this collarbone who got weaker, or was it something in your head? Now, from the time perspective, you must know it quite well.
Yeah, well, obviously looking back, probably not. Most people don't know the situation behind the scenes. What happened with my collarbone was that even though I got it plated, I had some screws in, and I never really got the strength in my arm after that, and also what happened was that the healing process in my collarbone was stopped. It didn't heal, so the only thing that was holding the plate, the collarbone together was my steel plate and screws, and what happened after that also, like, because I was also in pain constantly, was that when I was on track, I actually broke my collarbone after that with the plate in. And then what happened was that they operated the plate out, and said, "Oh, it was all okay," but I could feel that it wasn't okay, and I went to a special surgeon from Team Denmark, and had a consultation with him, and he said, well, looking at X-rays, he said it's not healed, and there's absolutely no healing process in the bones. So my collarbone was more or less just moving around. Excuse me.
Oh, good.
So I had to. The choice I had was, he said, was like I was either gonna ride with the collarbone where it was broken, or I could have a surgery, and if it breaks again, it probably wouldn't be able to have another surgery on it. So his suggestion was that I should carry on racing with the collarbone broken, and make the most of it. So I was actually racing the last 4 years of my career with a broken collarbone, and that obviously took a lot of strain on my muscles, and when I was on difficult tracks, then I just couldn't handle it, and from then on, obviously you cannot be on say top level of your sport if you're sort of half injured, and can't ride certain tracks if they are in a difficult weather situation or something, or very grippy track. Then I can't ride that track because I can't handle it with my arm. So basically that's where my career went in the wrong direction.
Yeah, and it didn't last for long, yeah, because you ended in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, after a crash in England. So you were only 31 back in the days, and yeah, it was probably a hard pill to take.
Yes, it was very much. I wasn't obviously. I sort of slowly getting used to the idea, because I couldn't compete on the level that I really wanted to. So I was sort of got to a point where I said, well, riding for your ambitions are no longer what is up here, you know. So I sort of say, okay, I can maybe get 2-3 more years riding professionally and try and earn as much money as I can, and then retire. But I couldn't see myself riding, as a 40-year-old or anything, the way that my career sort of the turn it had taken. So obviously going to the 2002, where I had a crash at King's Lynn. That was also the situation where the track was very, very grippy. Had a lot of clay in the track, and again carrying too much speed, and I just clipped somebody's back wheel, and high-sided, landed on my head, and I was unconscious for a long time. And I ended up with a disc prolapse on my neck. And that sort of finished my career 100%. And after that, I didn't ride again. So, but yes, yes, we can say there's a lot of things that made it go in that right direction. But again, looking on back in my career, there's so many more good things about the speedo sport. So it's not like I regret anything. Maybe yes, I should not have done the collarbone, but if I've had the operation or not, as the specialists are saying, it might not have made any difference, because it has something to do with the impact. The higher impact the bone is breaking with, it can stop the blood circulation and obviously the healing process, and that's what they say happened. So whether I had the operation riding on in Wrocław on a Saturday might not have done anything to the injury. So
yeah, this could be true. No, we will never know. So
no.
That's the thing. Yeah, but talking also about good moments in your careers, then a part of being this sixth in the world, because you ended up as a sixth, which is also quite an achievement. I was never a sixth in the world. And you also were second or 2 times the Danish champion. And it also must be a good feeling, because, you know, Denmark used to be, is still now, but used to be even stronger back in the 90s. And, beating all of these guys twice must be a good feeling.
Oh yes, 100%. And I think sometimes when I talk to Mikkel, and obviously he doesn't know what I've achieved in my career, but sometimes when he looks back, oh, Dad, did you actually win that twice? He said, yeah, I did. And because obviously he's looking to and looking at, say, Anders Thomsen and Leon Madsen and these guys who are, to say, the top of Danish guys, and also being top of Denmark twice on senior level is also a big achievement. And like Mikkel said, Dad, did you know that they called you the Crown Prince of Denmark? I said, yeah, they did at some point, because I was just after Hans Nielsen at some point, and obviously they always called him the King of Denmark, King of Speedway, and yeah, it's. Looking back, it's been a lot of highlights, and winning the Danish Senior Championship twice is also a big achievement for me, and also some medals on World Championship team events as well, which I've always also been part of. So yes, there's been a lot of great memories in Speedway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and at the moment you still have Leon Madsen, Anders Thomsen, Mikkel Mikkels, and many good Danish riders who were never a world champion. The last world champion from Denmark is Nicky Pedersen. Well deserved, we have to say also. But who do you think will be the next one from Denmark?
Oh, it's very, very hard to say. Obviously, being a world champion, and especially in the Grand Prix system, it's not just a one-off final. And no disrespect to all the world champions who's done a one-off final, also because winning on the night also takes you have to stand the pressure, but winning over, say, a lot of rounds is making it more difficult, of course. But to be world champion in the Grand Prix, it really it takes a special person. Looking at Smarslik, is outstanding. Winning 5 times is absolutely crazy. It's not. I don't think you will see that many riders be able to do that. At the moment, I don't really see that many who will be able to beat him or even do or become world champion from Denmark at the moment. But obviously, the 3 of them that we mentioned is obviously working on it. But if they have what it takes, I cannot really say. I just know it takes a special person, both of the people around himself. That there's so many things that makes a great rider nowadays, and so many things that has to be right. When I was riding and Hans Nielsen was riding, and these guys, we were like. Focus a lot on equipment and your own setup, the bikes and all that stuff, and then you are also riding like we're doing 100 plus meetings every year, every season, and so you are sort of making your feel of the bike and your riding that was sort of making you making your race fit, if you know what I mean. Nowadays they have dietitians, fitness coaches, managers, mechanics. So that it's totally different to what it was before. So what it takes to be world champion nowadays is a different different matter, I think. So
of course, but you said some good words about this older generation, or about this older generation of Danish speedwayers. But you know the youngest generation from your son, obviously, and obviously you keep your fingers crossed for Mikkel. But maybe there is also somebody else from the Danish really U17, U18 who you believe that could be maybe not a world champion but a world medalist, let's say.
Well, of course, there's a few riders coming up now. Obviously, Mikkel is part of them. There's Bastian Petersen and Nikolai Heiselberg and Vilas Nagel. They're obviously the new generation. You got Mads Hansen also is sort of in the middle and can also progress to be a very good rider. But there's a long road to success, and say Mikkel is 16. What he's achieved this year is been really outstanding. 16-year-old in the World Championship the first year. He is absolutely crazy. So and unexpected. But of course, from there till be a world champion senior, that there's a long road ahead of you. There's a lot of laps that has to be done, and it can be a learning curve. It can go up and it can go down, and some riders you see after a couple of years they maybe they lose interest, or they get injured, or that there's so many there can be so many things from the outside that can provoke your career going in different directions. But again, the way we try to do with Mikkel is of course that we take step by step, and obviously we set some goals. If without goals you're going nowhere. So of course you set some goals, but also you cannot forget when you ride speedway it also has to be fun. If you take the fun aspect out of it, if you just keep riding week in week out and you have pressure, then you all of a sudden you cannot take it in your head, and you lose the enjoyment of your sport. And when Mikkel started when he was 4 years old, the enjoyment is it has to be the biggest part of it, and have fun on the bike and all this, and that's where things can happen too quick, too soon, sort of thing, and that's why we've been trying to sometimes hit the handbrake and not going too fast sometimes, and but obviously sometimes when the snowball is rolling, then you can't always stop, and that's the difficult part.
Of course, not everything can be influenced in speedway. It's a really contact sport that we know and that we've seen on our own eyes many times. But one of the advantages that Mikkel has, as opposed to the opponents, is a father that used to be a speedwayer and is a good speedway tuner, and that's probably something that you can make use of. But do you remember who was the best rider that you made some motors for?
Well, I don't think you get one that's much better. I the last 2.5 seasons I did Tony Ricardson's engines, and yes, we had some good times from then and good memories from that time. Yes, so 2005 when he was world champion was probably one of the very best seasons for me and the tuning business as well. Obviously, and then I did Antonio Lindbecks at the same time, and they were making good results, both of them, and but obviously being part of a world championship winning rider is a great experience as a tuner, and also gives you some enjoyment in the work that you do. So that was a really great time, making many engines over the years. So, and obviously yes, gaining a lot of experience from that. It's also part of that. Obviously, when you've been a rider yourself, you sat on a bike, you know the feeling, you know what, and you can explain, say to Mikkel or another rider, when you do this, this is the feeling that you should have. The bike should push you in the back, and if it doesn't, then you got the wrong setup. If you feel it's spinning it's a very hard to feel the bike whether it's spinning or it's not able to pull the setup that you're doing. And this is where obviously I can give the riders that I make engines for, I can give them some pointers where they can learn how to feel the bike. And if it feels like this, then you go in that right direction, and if it feels like that, you're going in the wrong direction. And it's basically what I try to pass on to Mikkel as well is from my own experience, and I know this camshaft is doing this flywheel is doing that, this compression, these sort of aspects in a that makes a good engine, because one rider, well, never two riders are never the same. So tuning for me is not having like the strongest bike or having the bike with the most RPMs. The tuning is for me to set the bike up for that rider, whether he's 70 kilos or he's 55 kilos. It's setting the engine up for that rider for that certain track, and that's the difficult part.
Sure. We also talked about it a little bit with Mikkel, that probably being the lightest is a big advantage nowadays in Speedway. But yeah, I needed also to smile a little bit when you were talking about all of these technical details. I was thinking, how long would I be translating it into Polish?
Yeah, well, talking about engines, we can go on for hours.
I know.
Obviously, yes, we. Part of my business is also making components for the engines, which I also sell for quite a lot of the biggest tuners, which is in the market at the moment. So yes, we obviously specialize in making good products and high quality products. So yes, I know also that a lot of my components are part of the best riders in the world, and that also give me some satisfaction to be part of that and be able to deliver the high quality products. But it also obviously some of those tuners also using some of my experience from using my parts and which I also pass on to them, which they can use on setting the bikes up for their riders, and so yes, it's a good working relationship with my customers. Yeah. So.
Yeah, but it must be a complicated business, because today you are talking to me about these components. I talked a couple of months ago with Klaus Lausch, who is at the end of his career, and he was telling me, Christoph, I am not doing the engines, I am doing components as well. So yeah. Who the heck is doing the engines at the moment? Who is doing the steering if you all guys do the components?
Yeah, I obviously still also do engines, and still do not as many as I used to do. When I was in the Tony Regarson days, I had a lot of customers in my books, but at the time I was only doing engines and making a living out of doing engines. So we had to do, say, minimum between 50 and 60 new engines per season to make pay for the whole year, because in the winter, where you have 4 months where you basically don't really earn any money, you have to earn a lot in the rest of the, say, 8 months of the season, and therefore you had to make a lot of new engines in the winter and prepare and especially build them up for each rider. So then we sort of I took over. I got offered the production of Kurt Peterson. And buy his machinery, CNC machines, and in 2005, and then when we did that, we also started to develop other parts, such as front forks, engine plates. Later on, we got clutches on, so we're making complete clutches both for belt drives and also for the chain drive. so we're making a lot of components, chain oilers, brackets, all sorts for the speedway bikes, and obviously out from which I started as an engineer. I finished my apprenticeship in 91, and then I became a professional speed rider. But I have my background is in engineering as trade, and obviously I have a lot of knowledge from materials and from my time being an engineer, and obviously together with working with the bikes myself, then all of a sudden we found out, yes, we can make this, we can make these components. Say that when it turned in '94, when say the laydowns came in, there's so much heat on the chains, so like I found out, I needed to make my first chain oiler. And the chain oiler I made in '94 is more or less what I sell nowadays. So to say the speedway world, and so back in the days, because I was riding myself, a lot of the ideas, the engineering ideas I needed then, I sort of carried on by the experience from speedway. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in some of the components, like you say about this chain oiler, you were kind of a pioneer of a modern speedway, let's say.
Yeah, well, at that time, yeah, because well, when we were on the uprights, the RPMs on the engine was not as high as they were when we put the laydowns, and obviously then we had a situation where we needed to lubricate the chains during the race, otherwise they snapped, and obviously had some really nasty crashes as well because of the chains. You don't see it so often nowadays, but you still see chains come off and people fall off and get bad injuries, you know. So yeah, it's some, because of the background that I had, I could obviously do some components for the bikes, yeah.
Right. Good. I think we are almost done with the technical part of this, and it's maybe the last question, which is a little bit more connected with the history in Poland. Do you remember somebody not paying you in Poland? Maybe somebody still owes you money after so many years.
Oh, I think probably not Poland alone, but I have quite a few in Poland, yeah. But also have America, England, many places. I think I could travel around the world about 3 times for the money that people owe me over the years. It's only 2 weeks ago I had 20 years anniversary with my company, my machining company, tuning company. So yes. I think I can travel around the world a few times for what people owes me, and which money I've lost, which I'm very sorry to say. And I have to say, yeah, we had to, the last 5 years, we had to turn the business around a little bit, and say, well, if you don't pay the money, you don't get the parts, and I'm very sorry just to have to do this, but that's the way the business is at the moment. I'm afraid it gets a bad circle, because the dealers buy from me. The dealer can't pay me because he hasn't been paid by the rider. The rider can't pay the dealer because he hasn't been paid from the club. The club can't pay because the sponsor hasn't paid the club, and so it goes. It just gets a bad situation for a lot of people, and this is why we had to turn things around and say, well, we have to do like you go down to the local shop and say, well, if you don't pay for your groceries, you can't take them home, and do your cooking, and this is basically how the speedway business has gone nowadays. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But do you think there's too much money at the moment in speedway that it's gonna harm speedway in future?
Well. Can you say there's too much money in speedway? Is there too much money in football? Yes, 100%. There's too much money in football, because they don't risk their lives when they play football. but the speed riders do. You see people in wheelchairs. You see people well, lose their lives in speedway. So can you be paid too much for that? That's a good question. But yes, you can get, the speedway riders can get too much money if the clubs can't afford to pay. But it's always a situation where obviously the clubs and the management has to look at what can we afford to spend. You know, it's no good buying in a team that say you need 10,000 people, spectators every week, if there's only 6 coming. You know, you cannot spend money that you don't have, and it's also what I'm trying to teach my son Mikkel. Say, well, don't order a new engine if you haven't got the money. You know, you can't go down to the local food store and say, well, I'll pay you when I get money from my speedway club. It doesn't work that way. But so you have to learn the sort of to you know, spend your money wise, you know, and don't spend it before you got it.
That's true.
You know? And this is what I'm trying to teach Mikkel. Mikkel is 16-year-old. He has his own business, but he has to learn these things. And money doesn't fall down from the sky. You know, you have to earn it. And again, Mikkel now has say earn some money during the season, and I said, well, you can afford, make a list. What can you afford to buy now? What can you and so you make a priority list and say, well, this I need 5 bikes for the season maybe. And then say, well, but I can only afford to build 3 now. Yeah, but then buy the 3 instead of buy 5 half bikes, you know, or you order from the dealer. And then you get the parts, but then you can't afford to pay. It's and then that puts you into also bad standings and bad lights in the business. And then all of a sudden you cannot run your own business because you can't buy the parts. So it's best if you say you don't buy things before you got the money, you know.
Of course.
Yeah.
It should work like this in Speedway, and I'm glad that you learned it 5 years ago and you changed it a little bit, and now you are on the safer side.
I think we had to, because like I said, I could have had a really nice holiday for a long time. So yes, you obviously learn. You learn by mistakes. Yeah.
Traveling is dangerous, so you know, don't regret it.
Yeah.
Cool. Brian, thank you very much for taking part of this interview. And yeah, I'm really glad that we had this nice chat. I hope you enjoyed it, even though you've got your throat sore. Is there something you would like to say at the very end?
Well, yes, obviously, yes. I would very much like to say that I have worked very hard on Speedway since I was 12 years old, and I've been involved with Speedway since I was 12 years old, and still am, very much so. And I have to say I have absolutely no regrets over my career. You can always be wise afterwards, but no, there's been so many enjoyable moments over the years. Met so many people, nice people. Been fortunate to be in Poland. Been out seeing a lot of places, a lot of stadiums, towns. So it's been really great to be part of the Speedway world and the Speedway family. It's something I wouldn't wish to do otherwise in another way. No. So.
I'm really glad to hear that you don't regret anything. That's always the biggest or the most important thing to hear. So thank you very much, Brian, for having this. I'm gonna do the ending in Polish, if you don't mind. To była kolejna lawanda na portalu pobandzie.com.pl. Ja nazywam się Krzysiek Sałaga, a dziś moim gościem był mistrz świata juniorów, 2-krotny mistrz Danii, a prywatnie ojciec Mikkela Andersena, Brian Andersen. Thank you very much, Brian.
You're very welcome.